Beneath this East River Drive of the city of New York lies stones, bricks, and rubble from the bombed-out city of Bristol, England. Welcome back to New York 1-to-1. I think you know, and those words are from the beginning of a plaque located at Waterside Plaza, built on top of what is known as the Bristol Basin. In today's episode, we'll be building and detailing that apartment complex while discussing its history and construction. For those of you unfamiliar with the city of Bristol, it is the largest city in southwest England. And because of its important strategic location and the fact that it had a very popular port, it was heavily blitzed from late 1940 through early 1941 by the German Luftwaffe during World War II. This, of course, left the city heavily damaged, as it was, I believe, the fifth most heavily bombed city by the Germans during the war. And during the relief efforts, it became very important to the city to get whatever goods they could from their allies, including the United States. So boats were being sent out of Bristol and to New York to bring back supplies of food, medicine, clothing, and whatever else was needed to keep the population alive. And it's a lot easier to get a boat across the ocean when it is filled with ballast. So boats that are meant to carry large loads of cargo can't do this easily on their own. If a boat is meant to be very heavy, it's a little bit more dangerous to operate it when it's light. So what the people of Bristol decided to do was to take the bombed out remains of their houses and load the ships with that as ballast. And then when the boats got to New York, they would dump that ballast out into the water and pick up goods at port to bring back to the UK. And the part of Manhattan where they offloaded a lot of that ballast is what we're building today. So this is an area just above the Stuytown area that we built in a previous episode, which is now home to Waterside Plaza, an apartment complex built on top of that landfill in the early 1970s. This complex consists of 4 main buildings, the first of which you can see being laid down here, as well as several other buildings, including some townhomes, some shops, which haven't gotten around to building today, but also a school, which is the United Nations International School. And this building was built as part of the Mitchell-Lama programs in the city at that time. And essentially about 2,000 concrete piles were plowed into the East River on top of the rubble from the Bristol Basin to build this complex. And it's a really interesting place. I've had the pleasure of visiting it a few times. I find that it really feels like it suits the era properly. Like, it feels like a 1970s complex, but it doesn't feel out of place. And I think it's sitting on this triangular lot on the side of Manhattan has always really interested me, and it's been nice to get the chance to visit there a couple of times, as I've said. Another interesting aspect about this, because it was built on top of all that landfill, and because it's so close to the water, the way the complex interacts with the area around it is strange. So you see me building here all of these pathways, so all of the buildings themselves are connected by pathways. And then I've kind of hidden in some other paths so that the citizens in the game can actually get up and down and move around. And I hope you'll see it in the cinematics. There's a long cinematic at the end, which I believe shows some of the citizens using it and walking around. It actually does work. But another interesting aspect about this complex, and actually where the location of that plaque is on a platform kind of nestled in between the buildings. Again, to try to keep this complex safe for the long term from storms and the general erosion of water, a large section of the complex is built up on a platform where there are benches and seating and just nice places for the residents of the complex to hang out. And I've tried to accomplish something similar here during this build. This is a technique that I have not used a ton. It is a bit difficult, and something that can take quite a bit of time, and especially in a large city like this build, is where I really don't want to be going too crazy on my prop limits, and slowing down my frame rate too much. But I did want to make a good effort at it. So what I've done here is actually laid in, these are just the default keys, and I've taken tile decals and just layered them over to be the center of this raised area. And not only does that kind of help anchor in the center instead of it just being all gray, but it really does level out the entire area so that I'm not worried about those squared pavement decals, or actually those are props, for them to, you know, be kind of janky all over the place. So it's very important to try to get this right, and I'm really happy with how this came out. I know I've said it many times, both in these videos and on stream, that I'm not the biggest detailer. I certainly do know how to do it, but in a city like this, we only go too crazy. You only go so crazy on the detailing. But I am really happy with how this portion of the build turned out, and I think it brings a lot of character and life to this area, which is really hustle and bustle already. One of the other most difficult aspects about this build, and about how in real life the Waterside Plaza complex interacts with its surrounding area, is that it is of course split off from the rest of Manhattan by the FDR. And if you look up and down Manhattan, it might be the only portion that's like that, or one of very few. And because of that, there is a pedestrian walkway over the road, over the FDR, but there is also a lot of the East River Greenway bike network runs through there, and the FDR itself goes on and off, linking with the roads that allow Waterside Plaza to operate. So a lot of that work has been done off camera, and hopefully we'll get to show it in the stream at some point. For those of you who did attend the last live stream, it was super successful, had a lot of fun. And a ton of people watched it afterwards, which is crazy. I wish YouTube would, you know, do for the algorithm for this kind of video that it would for the live stream, but you don't control that, right? And the other really important bit that has been built during this episode is the M34 Select Bus Service. We'll be putting that in a second, and it's kind of a unique play on the M34. This is not the normal routing of it, but I did want a bus route to not only pick up the traffic we built for all the buildings we built in Hudson Yards and 34th Street 2 episodes ago, but to also help people get to and from the Waterside Plaza complex without it being too crazy with traffic, since the complex is meant to have a parking garage as well, but I don't have many good parking garage assets, so I might need to go take a look and see if I can find something, but I am pretty happy with how the way that it came out in the end, and you'll get to see a much closer view of that in a cinematic, which is coming up in about a minute. One thing for this episode, no live play today. If you were there for the live stream, I mentioned that I'm going away on holiday, but I did want to get one quick video in before that happened, and you know, we'll be back in early May with some longer episodes, some more interesting things. I am still working on the episode that will cover the north part of Midtown and Billionaires Row. Very excited about that. Still writing that script. Wish I had more time. There's only so many hours in the day though. But if you have stuck around for this quick video, I'd really appreciate a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Click the notification icon if you want to know when these come out. And thank you as always. We'll see you next time.